What is going on, my beautiful fellow investors? Today in this video, I want to cover some very important Bitcoin news and updates that has come out in the last week that are going to shake the world to the core. People just aren't realizing it yet. So we have full countries adopting Bitcoin, and you might have heard about this, but there's actually another country that is adopting it, and a lot of people aren't talking about this yet. So we'll get into that towards the end of the video. But there are some other important updates that just broke this morning from Michael Saylor buying a lot more Bitcoin. Very exciting. Also, the CEO of Twitter getting involved in Bitcoin and saying he would ultimately leave his post as the CEO of Twitter to be able to work on Bitcoin full time. So stick around because there's some awesome stuff coming. Now, if you aren't subscribed to the channel already, I'm about to ramp up the amount of content that I put up on this channel. So subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll keep you up to date with what's happening in the Bitcoin world as well as the investment world overall. Okay, now depending on how plugged into Bitcoin and all the updates you are, you might have heard that El Salvadorian's president has basically adopted Bitcoin as a currency that's recognized by the country. Now, this is actually just a bill that he has put to his Congress, but if you know anything about El Salvadorian politics, which I did not, but I looked into it, he basically owns 90% of the politicians, and almost all of them that are sitting on the Congress have already signaled that they're going to pass the bill. The bill basically makes Bitcoin a recognized currency of the country of El Salvador. Now, this is huge news because if a currency is recognized by another country, it becomes a foreign currency in America. Now, this is really important news because a lot of people are downplaying this, saying, El Salvador only has 6 million people. The entire country's GDP is only 0.03% of the entire world's GDP. So it doesn't really have that big of an impact, is what a lot of people are arguing. Now, the other side of the argument that a lot of people are really excited about is once a foreign country recognizes a foreign currency, we have laws in America that dictate how we treat foreign currencies. And the way we treat foreign currencies are different than the way we treat property, for example. So this isn't guaranteed yet, but a lot of people are talking about how if Bitcoin is recognized as a foreign currency in El Salvador, then we would no longer have to pay capital gains tax on it in the same way that we do right now with Bitcoin because it's recognized as a property in America. Now, I don't really know if America and Uncle Sam is going to be okay with not getting all that sweet capital gains tax from all these Bitcoin gains, but it's on the table. And there are laws that dictate that foreign currency is taxed in a different way. Who knows if USA will actually recognize this Bitcoin as a foreign currency since El Salvador is going to. We'll find out. Now, in my opinion, something that's more important than that whole argument is the fact that we've had retail, we've had people buying Bitcoin, and then we were waiting for institutions and companies to buy. Then that happened. You have MicroStrategy, you have Mass Mutual, you have Tesla, you have so many different companies putting it on their sheets. You have all of these institutional investment firms starting to open funds so that you can invest in Bitcoin that way. And the next thing that a lot of people have been waiting for is countries to adopt it. So this is the first country that is adopting Bitcoin, not only as a recognized currency of the country so that their citizens can use Bitcoin to pay back debts to the country and companies in the country, but also they're going to inevitably have to put it on their reserves, which is going to be a huge purchase of Bitcoin. There's going to be a lot of demand from that single action there. Now, while El Salvador is very small, this is the first domino. Just like with all of these other things that I've talked about, like when the first company started to do it, then you saw other companies start to do it. It's the same thing with these countries. You see this first country do it, and then that basically opens the door. People get to watch that country, see how it does for them, and then decide whether or not they're going to do the same thing with their country. And of course, it's going to start with very small countries, and eventually it'll lead up to larger countries. A lot of people still on the fence about this, but this has already been shown because Paraguay is signaling that they possibly are going to do the same thing as El Salvador. So a congressman and the national deputy of Paraguay, his name is Carlitos Rejala, he tweeted out just yesterday this tweet, and I translated it, so this is a rough translation. Forgive me if this isn't exactly perfect, but it basically says, as I was saying a long time ago, our country needs to advance hand in hand with the new generation. The moment has come, our moment. This week, we start with an important project to innovate Paraguay in front of the world. The real one to the moon, hashtag Bitcoin and hashtag PayPal. That's what a translation of the tweet said. Now, this doesn't really concretely say anything specifically, but he does have sway in the country, and he really wouldn't be tweeting this if he's going to look like an idiot in a few months when everybody signaled that they don't want Bitcoin in Paraguay. So Paraguay probably pretty soon here will be announcing that they are going to do the exact same thing as El Salvador. And I guarantee you in the next 6 months, you're going to see other small countries do the same thing. This adds up. And also basically just first through the door. That's always the hardest one. The first one to knock down is always the hardest one. The next ones come easier. So other countries, like I said, are going to be able to watch these first countries do it. And then game theory kicks in. You know, if you're a bigger country, you're not going to sit back and watch El Salvador go from 0.03% of the entire world's GDP to 0.006, 0.09, and then 0.1, and then just keeps going up and up. You're going to say, no, we're not going to let some of the, smallest, poorest countries become, rising in the ranks, become more and more rich. We got to get some because we need to compete. That's, in my opinion, what is going to happen. I guess we'll find out what happens. Now, in another giant piece of news, and really not unexpected at all, if you don't know Michael Saylor, he is the CEO of MicroStrategy. He is an extremely heavy Bitcoin bull. He spoke at the Bitcoin Miami conference, but something that was very exciting is just this morning, he tweeted out and said that he is again offering $400 million in convertible bonds due in 2028 through MicroStrategy. So basically, he's just getting money from investors. He'll have to pay that money back to those investors, but not for another 7 years or so. And he's using that money to buy Bitcoin once again. This is not a new strategy for him. This is, I don't know, like the 5th, 6th time he's done this. And it's always something like that, $300, $400, $500 million. So I don't know exactly how this works, but I would assume he doesn't have the money quite yet because I'm sure there's some time that transactions need to happen and deals need to be settled and stuff. So I'm assuming that $400 million hasn't been driven into the Bitcoin market yet. And as soon as he gets that money from the investors, he's going to start his patented trademark Michael Saylor strategy of buying Bitcoin. I forget exactly what his strategy is, but it's something like he sets a bot to buy Bitcoin every minute or 2 minutes in small amounts, and he sets it for multiple days. That way, he continues buying Bitcoin up, but he doesn't do it all at once, so he doesn't drive the price up too much. This is really, really bullish, and like I said, it's not unexpected. It's Michael Saylor, and I guarantee you he's going to do this quite a few more times. But again, it just shows that Michael Saylor is not shaken. So if you're feeling shaken, if I'm feeling shaken, and we have our small retail money in it, even if it's our entire life savings, remember that there are people like Michael Saylor who are putting in basically $500 million even after Bitcoin has crashed over 50%. He's completely undeterred. He's completely unscared of what's happening, and his conviction is high. And I've always said, you have to choose your conviction levels on the investments you have. And when you have high conviction, you have to remember that when things dip, like you said, I'm waiting for the dip to buy. And then a lot of people, when it dips, they get scared and they say, oh no, I'm not going to buy right now. It's too scary. No, you have to look at it as, I have high conviction. I believe in this thing. Because it's down, it's just a discount. It's just a sale. And that's exactly what Michael Saylor is doing. And that's very exciting. Like I said, the Miami Bitcoin conference just happened last weekend. There were some very notable speakers there. Actually, a lot of them. There was politicians from America. Ron Paul was there. Pretty crazy. Tony Hawk, the pro skater, was there. Money Man, a rapper, NFL athletes, a ton of others. And even Jack, the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, was there. And he actually said in his talk that he wants to help develop a hardware wallet that is open source for Bitcoin so that people can have a hardware wallet to cold store their Bitcoin for long-term storage. That's more available for everybody. It's cheaper and it's just more secure and easier to use. He says basically that the ease of use is something that really needs to be addressed so that people can use their mobile phone to interact with their cold storage wallet, and just overall the experience becomes easier so that there's less of a resistance for people to get into Bitcoin. He actually also said that if he had to leave his position as CEO of Twitter to be able to work on Bitcoin full time, he absolutely would. That that to me is very bullish. And it's crazy because it doesn't get a lot of play on the news. It doesn't get a lot of headlines, but this is intense. Like if the CEO of YouTube or the CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, said anything about Bitcoin, people would be freaking out. But especially if they said, I would literally quit my job so that I can work on the Bitcoin infrastructure because I believe in it so much. That would be a huge signal and people would really, really be excited about that. But at this point, people are just so used to Jack Dorsey being such a Bitcoin bull that they just write it off. But again, this is really important. Jack Dorsey has a lot of money, a lot of influence, and has a lot of connections and friends who are also very rich and influential people. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about, and I could cover so many different things that came out of the conference. There was a lot of bullish information, a lot of news and updates, but this last one I thought was really interesting. Basically, one of the US congressmen or senators, I forget exactly, she went on stage and was talking about China developing their digital renminbi, their digital currency, their digital cryptocurrency, and saying that America is basically falling behind and that we don't have that long to do the same, or we will be outpaced in this new world, in this new digital era. And she's urging that America get moving and actually have something to show for, our development of a digital currency within the next year. Now, this is also very interesting because other lawmakers in Congress have talked about the same thing. And I pulled this article from the internet that just got posted a few weeks ago talking about Congressman Hill speaking about this bipartisan bill that would help improve our movement towards a digital currency. So listen to this. Some lawmakers in Congress view China's new digital currency as a growing threat to the dollar. They're urging the Federal Reserve to get moving on a digital dollar. A bipartisan bill introduced in the House in late May, dubbed the 21st Century Dollar Act, aims to ensure the dollar as the prime global reserve currency. It would require the Treasury to report within 6 months on efforts to develop a digital dollar. He's quoted as saying, "The evolution of payment technology in China is challenging the dollar-based monetary system that has been in place since World War II. The Treasury and Fed need to have a key strategy and policies to maintain the dollar supremacy." So not just one politician, but many politicians are seeing the fact that other countries are outpacing us in their efforts to get to a digital currency because they're seeing how popular digital currencies have become, and they're recognizing that each country is going to need to issue their own digital currency that can be held in wallets versus how we usually store our money in banks. I believe that as we move forward, especially over the course of a few decades, we are no longer going to be relying on banks as much, and I'm sure they'll still exist, but every person is going to have a wallet on their phone, and those wallets can hold any sort of currencies that are digital. So that could be anything from having, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your Litecoin, all your cryptocurrencies on there, and then you also have the US digital currency, the central bank digital currency that they issue, as well as maybe you might have some digital, Chinese currency. You might have other countries' digital currencies. But I think what they're seeing is that everyone's going to have these wallets of cryptocurrencies. They absolutely should also have the government's, the country's coins in those wallets too. Otherwise, they're missing out on a huge opportunity to have people continue using their currency. Now, the fact that China has moved so quickly on developing their digital currency is basically creating a game theory, a competition for America not to get left behind, because as we move to a more digital era, if it takes America 5 or 10 more years and China's already got theirs out and people have been using it for 5 or 10 years, it's going to be a lot harder for us to catch up. Now, a lot of people might say, why is this bullish for Bitcoin? Why does this matter for cryptocurrencies at all? Really, what I think is important is that once you get used to using a digital wallet to hold your American dollars versus thinking about a bank account, you're going to get used to the fact that you can swap that US dollar immediately for Bitcoin in that wallet. Versus right now, where maybe you have a Chase bank account, you're going to have to deposit into Coinbase or Binance or Gemini. You might have to wait 1 or 2 or 3 days for the ACH system to process US dollars, and then you can buy Bitcoin. And that whole thing just slows everything down. It creates a resistance. But if people are used to just opening their wallet and beeping their wallet over on, the scanner at the store, or sending their friend some money through their digital wallet, as soon as that gets used to, everyone gets used to that, even older people, everybody's using that. That opens the door for a lot of people to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to throw a couple $100 into Bitcoin because it's just a button on the same wallet. That opens the door for a lot of people to understand that cryptocurrencies are here to stay, and 2, understand that it's very easy to access them and easy to store them within that same wallet that you're using for everything anyway. So there we have it. Those are some of the most important Bitcoin and cryptocurrency updates in the last couple of days. Just the last couple of days is very bullish in my opinion. A lot of people might look over to the price and say it hasn't jumped heavily, and El Salvador, a whole country adopting Bitcoin, shouldn't Bitcoin just fly to 100K? Well, I think we are going to see the effects of this basically delayed. We're going to see this towards the end of the year and a bit after that, because it's going to take time for those countries to basically buy up Bitcoin, but also for this news to really settle in and the scarcity of the Bitcoin that's out there to really have an impact on the price. Personally, I think that this basically couldn't be more of a bullish environment. And right now, other than if you bought, back when it had dropped all the way to 3,500, last year, this is probably one of the best times for people to buy Bitcoin. And I personally just bought a bit more Bitcoin last week in my personal wallet and in my retirement fund. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. It helps it get out to way more people. The algorithm really favors that. Let me know what you think about Bitcoin right now in the comments below. Are you buying? Are you scared? What do you think about this news? And what else would you like to hear me talk about on this channel? Stick around, because I will be updating you with more Bitcoin and other investment videos in the next few days. I appreciate you guys checking in, and I will see you in the very next video.